Good morning students, welcome to science session for standard 10 and today we are going to deal with unit 6 nuclear physics. Now the concept under this lesson is about the radioactivity which is being divided into natural and artificial radioactivity. What is nuclear fission and nuclear fusion? What is fissionable material, controlled and uncontrolled chain reactions? The principles of atom bomb and hydrogen bomb. The components of nuclear reactor. What is Good morning students, welcome to science session for standard 10 and today we are going to deal with unit 6 nuclear physics. Now the concept under this lesson is about radioactivity which is being divided into natural and artificial radioactivity. What is nuclear fission and nuclear fusion? What is fissionable material, controlled and uncontrolled chain reactions? The principles of atom bomb and hydrogen bomb. The components of nuclear reactor. How does the nuclear reactor work and the precautions while handling the radioactive material. Now under this session we are going to learn about the radioactivity, concepts of nuclear fission and nuclear fusion, what is a fissionable material, controlled and uncontrolled chain reaction. Now let's go into the session, children. We know that the atoms are the basic unit of matter, isn't it? So matter is made up of tiny indestructible units which is called as the atoms, and this was discovered by a great philosopher, that is Greek philosopher Democritus, in 400 BC. Later in 1803, John Dalton discovered that the elements consist of atoms which are identical in nature, and J.J. Thomson also discovered the cathode rays which was later named as electrons, right? And Goldstein discovered a positive ray which was named by Rutherford as protons. In 1932, James Chadwick discovered the chargeless particles which is called as the neutrons, right? And in 1911, British chemist Rutherford explained that the mass of the particle is concentrated in the center, and this is called as the nucleus. This is about the discovery of nucleus. Right now, presently we have large number of elementary particles like photons, mesons, positrons, and neutrinos. So these were discovered in the recent years. This is about the history of the atomic structure. We have learned this in the earlier classes. We'll be learning about the discovery of radioactivity. In 1896, the French scientist Henri Becquerel, when he was doing his research, he left a certain amount of uranium on the table, and by chance a photoelectric plate was placed near the same table. Now after a week when he returned, he noticed that the photoelectric plate is exposed to some sort of radiations, and he saw this effect whenever he placed uranium near the photoelectric plate. So the uranium radiated something that affect the photoelectric plate, right? So, and this phenomena is called as radioactivity, that was discovered by Henri Becquerel, and he said that the uranium is a radioactive element. Right now, 2 years later, Marie Curie and the Pierre Curie discovered or detected radioactivity in the ore of the uranium, which is the pitch blende. Now this is the ore of uranium, that is pitch blende, and they discovered that the radiation was more intense than the pure uranium, right? And they also found that the pitch blende had less concentration of uranium. So there is some other material, there is some other substance that emits this radiations which is present in the pitch blende. Now after separating this new substances which gives this intense radiations, and that was later named as radium, that is they named this new substances which emitted radiation spontaneously like uranium is called as the radium. So the radioactive element emitted harmful radioactive radiations like alpha, beta and gamma radiation. So this is about the discovery of radioactive substances, and we have also seen about Marie Curie and Pierre Curie. Having seen the discovery of radioactivity, let's go to the definition of radioactivity. We know that some nucleus are very unstable, isn't it? Such nucleus undergo a nuclear decay and that converted into more stable nuclei by emitting some radiations. Now during this nuclear reaction, these nucleus emit certain amount of harmful radiations and these are called as elementary particles, isn't it? So the phenomena of nuclear decay of these certain elements with the emission of the radiations like alpha, beta and gamma rays is called as the radioactivity. And these elements are called as radioactive elements. Now what is natural radioactivity? So certain elements like uranium and radium, just now we saw that they emit radiations automatically, spontaneously, without any human effort or human intervention, right? So this phenomena of spontaneous emission or spontaneous activity, right, in the form of an emission of radiations by certain atoms which have atomic number greater than 83 is called as the natural radioactivity. So the elements whose atomic number is more than 83 undergo spontaneous radioactivity. Now for example, you can say uranium, radium. So these are the examples which emit natural radioactivity, rates exhibit natural radioactivity, right? So there are only two elements which have been identified as radioactive substances with atomic number less than 82, right? So we said that more than 82 gives about the radioactivity. Now there are only two elements which is called as technetium, that is Tc, and promethium, Pm. So technetium has the atomic number 43 and promethium has the atomic number 61. So these are the two elements which atomic number less than 82 and these are radioactive substances. Now this radioactivity, emission of radioactivity can also be induced, and this radioactivity is called as artificial radioactivity or induced radioactivity. So lighter elements, this phenomena can exhibit by even lighter elements, and this can be made radioactive by artificial methods or induced methods, and this is called as artificial radioactivity. Now artificial radioactivity is induced in the lighter elements, I said, like boron, aluminium. Now when these are bombarded with the alpha particles, they emit the radiations, and this emission of the invisible radiations occurs, and it also releases the elementary particles. Now during the disintegration, that is when the nucleus is unstable, it disintegrates, isn't it? The nucleus which undergo disintegration is called as the parent nucleus because it is undergoing disintegration and it's emitting the elementary particles, right? So this is called as the parent nucleus, and which is produced after the disintegration, after the emission is called as the daughter nucleus, and the particle which is emitted is called as the radiations, right? Now we said that these are induced in the sense these are made to produce the radiations, isn't it? So the particle which is used to induce, now inducing can be done by bombarding it within particles, right? So this particles which is induced which is used to induce the artificial disintegration is called as the projectile, or it is called as the projectile particles. So the particle which is produced after the disintegrations, the emission of the particles is called as the ejected particles. So when the projectile hits the parent nuclei, it is converted into an unstable nuclei, and this will spontaneously emit the particles, that is the radiations, right? So, and a daughter nucleus is also being produced. So this is called as artificial radioactivity. Now here we are going to see the example of the radioactivity, that is artificial radioactivity. Now we said that this is the parent nuclei, right? So beryllium is the parent nucleus. So beryllium-49 is the parent nuclei, and this is bombarded with the helium atom. So this is the parent nuclei and this is the projectile. Now projectile is one which is bombarded to the parent nucleus, so it emits a radiation. Now here you can see the complete reaction. So this is the parent nucleus and this is the projectile, right? And this will give an daughter nuclei, isn't it? So carbon 612 is the daughter nuclei which is produced after the artificial radioactivity, and this is the ejectile particle, right? So because this is ejected after the parent nuclei has been formed. So this is the reaction for the artificial radioactivities, that is beryllium 49 when it is bombarded with the alpha particle, helium particle, that is He24, will give carbon 612 which is the daughter nuclei with the emission of neutron, that is N01. Next, we'll see the units of radioactivity. The first one is Curie. So 1 Curie is equal to 3.7 into 10 to the power of 10 disintegration per second. So this is one of the unit in which the radioactivity can be expressed. The next one is the Rutherford. Rutherford is represented by RD. So 1 RD is equal to 10 to the power of 6 disintegration per second. The next one is the becquerel. Now becquerel is nothing but the 1 disintegration per second, right? So this is represented by the unit BQ. The next one is the Röntgen. Röntgen is represented by R. So 1 Röntgen is nothing but the quantity of radioactivity which is equal to 2.58 into 10 to the power of minus 4 coulomb in 1 kg of air under the normal temperature and pressure. So these are the units which represents the unit of radioactivity, that is Curie, Rutherford, Becquerel and Röntgen. Now, when a radioactive nucleus undergo disintegration or when it undergo radioactivity, it emits radiations, and these radiations are normally 3 types of particles. One is the alpha particle, a beta particle and the gamma ray. So these are the particles that is emitted during the radioactivity process. Now, if you see the properties of the radioactivities, you can compare the properties of radioactivity. Now, here is the comparison. Now, which gives that the alpha particles are nothing but the helium particles which consist of 2 protons and 4 neutrons. Now here you can see 2, isn't it, which is written down. The symbol of the element is the 2 protons and 4 neutrons, right? So it consists of 2 protons and 4 neutrons. When you see the beta particles, it is nothing but E-10, right? So these are nothing but the electrons, and the gamma radiations are nothing but the electromagnetic radiations, and it consists of only the photons. It is emitted in the form of a wave. Now if you see the charge, now this consists of each alpha particle consists of plus 2e charge, and this is minus e charge, and this doesn't have any charge because these are the neutral particles, right? Next is the ionization power. Next is the ionizing power. Ionizing power in the sense converting it into ions, right? So if you see the ionizing power, this is greater than the beta particles. If you compare the alpha particles and the beta particles, the ionizing power of the alpha particles is greater than that of the beta particles. Now when you compare this with the gamma particles, this is comparatively more but less than the alpha particles, and this has the least ionizing power, that is the gamma rays has the least ionizing power. Next is the penetrating power. Now if you see the penetrating power, alpha particles has very low penetrating power. It can be even stopped by a thin paper, right? A thick of paper, you can say, right? Now if you see the penetrating power comparing to the alpha particles, beta particle has a penetrating power which is greater than that of the alpha particles. Now very high penetrating power is exhibited by the gamma particles, and this can penetrate even a thick metal block. Now effect of the electric and magnetic field, this is deflected by both the magnetic and the electric field. Now this deflection, this is also deflected by both the field, but it is opposite to that of the alpha particles, right? So the direction, if you compare with that of the alpha particles, this has the direction opposite to that of the alpha particles, and this being neutral particles or the chargeless particles, they are not affected by both the electric and the magnetic field. Now if you see the speed ranges from 1/10 to 1/12 the speed of the light. Now what is the speed of the light? 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter per second, isn't it? So the speed, if you compare with that of the light, this is 1/10th or 1/20th times of the speed of the light, and here this speed goes about 9/10th times of the speed of the light, and this travels with the speed of the light, that is 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter per second. So this is about the comparison of the alpha, beta and the gamma particles, and this is one of the important question. This is an important 4-mark question, you can say. Next we'll go to alpha decay. Decay is a disintegration. So a nuclear reaction in which the alpha particle is emitted is called as alpha decay. Alpha disintegration, you can say. Now here if you see uranium 90 to 238, so this is the parent nuclei, isn't it? Now this on disintegration gives thorium 90 and 234 with the emission of the alpha particles, that is helium 24, right? So on disintegration it emits only the alpha particles, and this type of the nuclear reaction is called as the alpha decay or alpha disintegration. Now if you see the alpha nuclei, compare the atomic mass and the atomic number. Now here you can see that the atomic mass is 2 less than that of the parent nuclei. So you can find out this is the parent nuclei, right? So this is the parent nuclei and this is the daughter nuclei. So when you compare the daughter nuclei and the parent nuclei, the atomic number is 2 less than that of the parent nuclei, and when you compare the mass number, it is 4 less than that of the parent nuclei. Now next is the beta decay. Now beta decay, as the name indicates, it emits the beta particles, isn't it? Now here you can see that it is the parent nuclei, that is phosphorus 1532, and it gives sulfur 1632. This is the daughter nuclei with the emission of the beta particles. These are the electrons, right? As you can see, there is no change in the mass number, so the mass number remains the same. Now if you see the if you compare the atomic number of the parent nuclei and the daughter nuclei, the atomic number is increased by 1, right? Now here it is 15 and here it is 16. So the daughter nuclei will have an atomic number that is increased by 1 in the beta decay. So the next one is the gamma decay. Gamma decay gives or emits the gamma radiations, right? Now here there will be no change in the atomic number as well as the mass number. So the atomic number and the mass number remain same for the parent nuclei and the daughter nuclei. Next we'll talk about the nuclear fission, right? Now what is nuclear fission? As the name indicates, fission in the sense splitting up of the heavier nucleus into smaller nucleus, and this will give tremendous amount of the energy, right? So it releases a large amount of energy and 3 neutrons are emitted. Now here you can see the picture where the accelerated neutron is bombarded on the uranium nuclei, which is the larger nuclei, and this splits into the 2 daughter nuclei, that is the barium and the krypton, right? And it releases 3 neutron, right? And a large amount of energy is released. Now if you see the average energy that is released by the nuclear fission, it is 3.2 into 10 to the power of minus 11 joules, right? So this is about the average energy that is released by each fission. There are number of fission reactions that takes place, right? A numerous fission reaction takes place, and the energy released by each fission reaction is 3 into 10 to the power of minus 11 joules, right? Now here the heavier nuclear is splitting into the smaller nuclei with a tremendous amount of the nucleus. Now here you can see that the uranium nucleus is bombarded with the neutron and it breaks up into 2 smaller nucleus, that is barium 56 141 and krypton 36 92. So these are the 2 daughter nucleus that is formed, and with the release of 3 neutron. Now let's see the overall reaction. Now here you can see the fission reaction, that is uranium 235 on bombarding with the neutron gives barium, krypton and the emission of 3 neutrons with a tremendous amount of the energy takes place, right? Now here if you see the reaction, this heavy nucleus is splitting into 2 smaller nuclei, isn't it, with the emission of 3 neutron, right? Now here if you compare the atomic number and the mass number, it should remain same on the left hand side and the right hand side. Now here add the atomic number, it is 92 plus 0, which is 92, right? So here the atomic number you can take it as 92. Now here it is 56 plus 36 and here it is 0, right? So you cannot add that, right? So this will give you 12 and this is 992. So the atomic number remains the same, right? It should balance, right? So the atomic number and the mass number should balance on both the reactant and the product side, right? So both the side it should be balanced. Now here you can see that the atomic number is balancing. Now let's say check the mass number. If you see, check the mass number, it is 235. 235 plus 1, it is 236. Now here on the reactant side. Now in the product side, here you have 141. So 141 plus 92 plus 92, and since you have 3 neutrons plus 3, each neutron has one mass number, isn't it? So 3. So this will give you 236, right? So the mass number remains the same. It should balance both on, if you compare it on the reactant side and the product side, the mass number should balance. So the atomic number and the mass number should balance on either side. Now let's see what is nuclear fusion. Fusion in the sense combining, isn't it? The lighter nucleus, two lighter nucleus combine together to form the heavier nucleus, and this is called as fusion, right? So when heavy nucleus is split into two smaller nucleus, similarly the energy will be produced even when two lighter nucleus combine to form the heavier nucleus, and which is called as the nuclear fusion, right? Now if you see the definition, typical definition, the process in which the two lighter nucleus combine to form one heavier nucleus is called as the nuclear fusion. You can see that two protons combine together to give the helium atoms with a tremendous amount of the energy that is released, right? Now if you see the energy that is released by each fusion reaction, if you see, it is 3.84 into 10 to the power of minus 12 joules. So this is about the average energy that is released by each fusion reaction, right? If you see the mass of the daughter nucleus that is formed during the nuclear reactor, that is the fission and the fusion together, if you see, it is less than the sum of the mass of the parent nuclei, right? So there is a difference between the mass that is found in the parent nuclei and the daughter nuclei, isn't it? So this difference in the mass is called as the mass defect, and this can be converted into an energy according to the Einstein equation, that is E is equal to mc square. We are aware of this equation, isn't it? So the concept of the mass energy is given by the Einstein, and this is the Einstein equation. So the relationship between the mass and the energy is given by E is equal to mc square. Now here E is the energy, m is the mass, and c is the velocity of the light, right? So the difference in the mass between the parent and the daughter nuclei is called as the mass defect. Now let's see the equation for the nuclear fusion. Now here you can see that two lighter nucleus, that is the isotopes of hydrogen, that is deuterium, right? They combine together to form the heavy nucleus, that is the helium, that is He2 3, right? With the emission of the neutron, and tremendous amount of the energy is released. Now here these two lighter nucleus combine together to form the heavier nuclei, right? Now with the emission of the tremendous amount of the energy, and we said that the energy release is 3.84 into 10 to the power of minus 12 joules, right? So this is the amount of the energy is released, average energy that is released in each fusion reaction. Next we'll see what is fissionable material. Fissionable material is one or the element which is capable of undergoing the disintegration, or it is capable of emitting radiations, which is capable of undergoing the nuclear reaction, is called as the fissionable material. Now here you can see that the uranium, plutonium, right, both the isotopes are capable of undergoing the fission reaction, right? So this is called as the fissionable material, right? Now there are certain substances which is non-fissionable, which do not undergo the fission reaction, like uranium 235 undergoes the fissionable reaction, while uranium 238 do not undergo the fission reaction. Now here this is fissionable and this is not, right? So this is called as the fissionable material, and this is the non-fissionable material. Uranium 238 is non-fissionable material. So we said that uranium-235 is a fissionable material and uranium-238 is non-fissionable, right? So this element can undergo fission reaction and this will not undergo fissionable reaction. But this can be converted into a fissionable material. That is, it can be made to undergo the fission reaction, right? So such type of the material is called as the fertile material, which can be converted into a fissionable one. For example, uranium-238, thorium-232 and plutonium-240. So this can be converted into a fissionable material and these can undergo fission reaction and this is called as the fertile material. Now let's see what is chain reaction. Now we said that uranium nucleus, now for example you can take uranium-235. Now when it is bombarded with the neutron, it undergoes nuclear fission, right, and it produces two lighter daughter nuclei. Along with that, 3 neutrons are produced, isn't it? Now these 3 neutrons, which in turn produces the or causes the fission reaction of the other 3 uranium nuclei that is present in the sample, right? Now what will happen? Again it will produce 3 into 3, so it will produce 9 neutrons, isn't it? And these 9 neutrons, which in turn may produce 27 neutrons, that is, it multiplies, isn't it, and it goes on like that. So it gives you the chain reaction and this is called as a chain reaction. So the chain reaction is the self-propagating process in which the number of neutrons goes on multiplying repeatedly, almost in the geometrical progression we can say. Now here you can see that this is the neutron which is bombarded with the one of the uranium nucleus, right? Now what will happen on bombarding, it undergoes nuclear fission and the 2 daughter nucleus are formed, right? And we said that it releases lot of energy, right? Now these are the 2 nuclear fission products, isn't it? Now this releases 3 neutrons and these 3 neutrons again undergoes or induces the nuclear fission reaction of the other uranium nucleus which is present in the sample, and again this produces 3 neutrons in turn, isn't it? So now what will happen? How many neutrons are there? Here you will get 9 neutrons, and these 9 neutrons again, which in turn induces or bombards with the other uranium nucleus which is present in the sample. So the number of the neutrons that is produced will multiply in a geometrical progression. So this is called as the chain reaction, right? Now this chain reaction is of 2 types. 2 kinds of chain reactions are possible. One is the controlled chain reaction, the other one is the uncontrolled chain reactions. Let's see them. So the first is the controlled chain reaction. Now in controlled chain reaction, what will happen? The number of the neutrons that is released is maintained to be 1. So the other 2 neutrons that is produced is observed using an neutron observer. This observes all the neutrons that is present, leaving only 1 neutron to produce the further nuclear fission reaction. So what will happen? The reaction is sustained in a controlled manner. The whole nuclear fission reaction is controlled. So the energy released during this controlled chain reaction is also a limited one and it is used for a constructive process, right? So the controlled chain reaction is used in the nuclear reactor to produce the energy, right? So this is how it is controlled. Now here you can see that this is the initial neutron which is bombarded on the uranium nuclei. Now it produces 3 neutrons, isn't it? Now out of this, these 2 neutrons are observed using the nuclear observer and only 1 neutron is left to bombard the other uranium neutron. And here also you can see this neutron which is released by this uranium is observed. So this is how the chain reaction takes place in a controlled manner and the energy released will also be limited and it is used for a constructive process. Next is the uncontrolled chain reaction. In uncontrolled chain reaction, the number of the neutron multiplies in a geometrical progression. We said that, right? And it causes a fission in a large amount of the fissile material, right? And the energy released will also be a very huge amount. In a fraction of a second, it releases enormous amount of the energy. And this kind of the uncontrolled chain reaction is used in the atom bomb to produce an explosion. Right now here you can see the picture where the uncontrolled chain reaction is explained. Now here you can see that one neutron is bombarded with the uranium, and this gives you the two daughter nuclei. This is the daughter nuclei, you can see, and three neutrons are produced. So these three neutrons are further used for the fission of the other uranium that is present. Now here you can see these are the three neutrons that is produced. Now here you have 9 neutrons and here you have 27 neutrons. So the number of neutrons increases in an uncontrolled manner, and the nuclear fission reaction also takes place in a very huge fissionable material, with very huge fissionable material, and the energy released will also be a very huge amount of the energy is released, which is used to produce the explosion, right? So this is called as the uncontrolled chain reaction. Now consider this is the system in which the fissionable materials are present for the chain reaction to take place. These are the uranium particles, right? And each uranium releases 3 neutrons, right? And this is used for the further nuclear fission reaction to take place for the neutrons that is present in the system. Now, out of these 3 neutrons that is released by one nuclear or uranium nuclei, this can be escape from the system. This can escape from the system, and this is called as the leakage of the neutron. So this is one reason for the loss of neutron. The other reason is that this neutron can be observed by non-fissionable material. Now for example, we said that uranium-238 is the non-fissionable material, isn't it? So this can be observed, this neutron can be observed by this non-fissionable material, and this also leads to the loss of neutrons. So there are two reasons which leads to the loss of neutrons. Now if the neutrons are lost, then the chain reaction that takes place inside the system cannot be maintained, right? So to sustain the chain reaction, the rate of production of the neutrons should be more than the rate of loss. Now for example, if 3 neutrons are produced and if 3 neutrons are lost, then the chain reactions will not sustain, right? Now the rate of production of the neutrons should be more than the rate of loss, right? So this can be achieved by the critical mass. So this is the critical mass, that is the minimum mass of the fissile material, that is the fusionable material, that is necessary for the chain reaction is called as the critical mass, which is represented by MC, critical mass. Now what do you mean by that? The minimum mass that is required. If the mass is less than that of the critical mass, if the amount of the fissile material that is present is less than this critical mass, then it is called as the subcritical, right? And if the mass of the system is more than the critical mass, then it is called as the supercritical, right? So these are the two terms that is related with the critical mass, right? So far in this session we have learned what is natural radioactivity, artificial radioactivity, what is alpha, beta and gamma rays, what are its properties, nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, what is chain reaction, what is critical mass, right? And we have learned about the controlled and uncontrolled chain reaction, isn't it? We'll continue with this lesson in the next session. Now there in the next session we'll be learning about atom bomb, hydrogen bomb, what is the difference between the nuclear fission and fusion reactions, what are the uses of radioactivity, what is called as nuclear reactor, and what are the safety measures in handling the nuclear reactants and the numerical problems, right? Now your homework for today is in page number 89 you have long answer question, that is detailed question. The first is explain the process of controlled and uncontrolled chain reaction. The next is compare the properties of alpha, beta and gamma radiations. Copy these two questions and the answer, for the answer you can refer the PDF. I'll upload the PDF. So copy these two question and answers in the classwork and submit your classwork on Friday. In the next session we'll continue with this lesson and we will also see some numerical problems in this lesson. Thank you children.